Our first little dabble in assisted sprinting, we did a little bit towards the end of our off season, winter season, dabbled in it just a little. I did most of the assisted sprint training with our pro day guys. So I was fortunate enough to train 4 pro day guys. Really, really cool experience for me. Never did that before, so got to get super individualized. That's where we kind of went, wrote out this whole program, thought it was like the best program ever, changed it about 17 times. So, but through all that, started doing assisted sprinting. We was tracking everything, making sure what we were doing was working. We had some pretty good results. We ended up having, the tight end we had was the fastest tight end coming out last year, 4.43. I think he had a 41-inch broad. He jumped 41-inch vertical. He jumped 11 on the broad. So, not to say I had anything to do with that, but we did all of our resisted training, assisted training, all of that with these 1080s. So, really, really cool piece. And then being able to track it. To me, that's the biggest thing, whether it's in a pro setting or in a college setting, to be able to track it and track it very quickly, and be able to see is what we're prescribing working, right? So when we talk about assisted sprinting, at least for us, these are our big 3 questions, right? We're gonna do a lot more in the summer, and we actually sit down and ask this question about every guy. So I don't think to sit here and say assisted sprinting is for everybody, I don't necessarily know if that's true. I think it's tailored towards certain athletes. That's kind of, you gotta know what you got. But question 1, does the athlete need assisted sprinting, right? Are there other areas you can improve, easily improve, whether it's in acceleration, technique, mobility, anything like that? So we break a guy down. We're gonna look, like if he's got poor tau or his F0 is low, and if you don't have access to those metrics, if you watch him and he looks like he's a very bad accelerator, we're gonna spend way more time on that before we even consider assisted sprinting, because it's really, in the art game of football, there's no point. So we're gonna ask that question, are there other areas we can improve without just jumping the gun and going right to the most highly stressed piece of sprinting, right? Once we answer that question, we go into question 2. Does he have good enough technique to sprint? And we'll talk a little more about that coming up, but you know, if you got an athlete that's super front side, he gets super backside, he's anteriorly tilted at the pelvis, and he runs squatty, I don't think assisted sprinting would be where I would go first. I would try to correct some of that stuff, because assisted sprinting is not the time to correct technique. If anything, it's gonna expose bad technique. Anytime you do something really, really fast, it's gonna expose any type of weakness, symmetry, whatever you have. So that's our next one is, you know, is his posture good? Is his strength good? Is his stride good, right? Again, front side's gonna be really bad. Back side, he's got to be have a really good base of sprint technique before we even consider allowing the guy to do overspeed, right? And then question 3, how does he respond to max velocity sprinting or assisted sprinting? And this is a big one for us, especially this summer, just because you gotta know how your guys are gonna respond. And I'll give you an example. With one of the pro day guys, responds really well to max velocity sprinting. His jump height's not affected, his eccentric mean velocity on our lifts is not affected. He actually more correlated with peak power production and stuff on the plates. The other guy, we had a linebacker I was doing, he's in the tank. So as soon as he hits above a certain percentage of his max velocity over a certain distance, he's fried. So I know that. I know the next 2 days he's down, those are going to be our low days. So I think that's kind of important that in our world now, with as much football that's involved, it's hard to figure that piece out. But that's why it's always super important to check, make sure, we call them fatigue monitoring. There's a million different things you can call it, but just knowing if we do this, we're gonna get this, right? That just takes, whether you're jumping on the plates, using PERT, whatever you're using, just making sure you're tracking it, knowing where your guys are. So that's a big, especially in pro day training, because what you're training for is so specific. You're not training for football, I'm training for a 40. So I had to make sure whatever we was doing was making the 40 better. So in terms of the program, again, I just wrote it out. We're gonna try it, we're gonna see what happens, we're gonna check it. And, you know, if we're getting faster, good. If we're not, we'll change something. So the way we do it, and this is the way I would write any program, not just my speed program, but first thing, we keep it simple, stupid, right? I was a PE major. I learned that way back when. That's kind of stayed with me throughout my whole career. It's like, how simple can we keep it? Let's do that really well. And even some of these guys that work with me can attest to that. Minimum effective dose, especially for us, with as much football as we do in the summer, we're gonna try to do as minimum as we can in terms of still getting all the residuals we need. Are we getting faster? Are we getting bigger? Are we getting stronger? Knowing that these guys got football 3 times a week, they got this, they got that, right? So we kind of really pay attention to our minimum effective dose, so we know that through how do they respond to fatigue, how do they respond to high velocity yardage, how do they respond to, we call it activity yardage, whatever it may be, change direction, how do my guys respond? All stress is cumulative, so you just got to know, especially assisted sprinting, it's not just going to go away after a day, right? It's a residual effect. It's all going to come together at the end. So whatever I do on Monday is going to affect what I do on Friday. And just because I have a day off in between does not mean shit goes away. I promise. I promise. So make sure you have it timed out right. You know it's going to be the highest day of the week. You got to follow it up with a low day. And what we did, I actually like doing it on Thursday versus Monday because we were coming off of an off day, but they had Saturday and Sunday to recover from super stressful training. And I used to be opposite. I used to go Monday, then Thursday, but I've actually started switching it. Let your whiskey days be whiskey, water days be water, same thing. If you're gonna have a high day, have a high day. If you're gonna have a low day, have a low day. Don't confuse the two, right? So especially with this stuff with sprinting, overspeed, max acceleration, max velocity, you gotta make sure if you're gonna do it, you do it. If you're not, you're not. Don't get caught in that gray area. You just don't get there's no return on value on that, return on investment. Constant communication with your guys. And we do this as a staff. I do this not just sprinting, but everything. Constantly asking guys, how you feeling? How was that? How's that feel? How's that feel? How you doing? Just like constant feedback just to know like, hey, this guy feels good, we can go. Or hey, he's a little fatigued, not as responsive, we probably need to ask a few more questions. And I get it, definitely a double-edged sword. You get a mental guy, you keep asking how he's feeling, he's gonna fucking tank on you. But we found it just to be a lot easier for us. Build that relationship, have a good trust in your guys. They trust you, you trust them, you gotta trust what they're telling you. And then trust what they're showing you with their performance, right? So then always be ready to adjust. So anytime we write this out, we'll always put if needed. So you'll see it on your sheet. This is what we got, star if needed. So, and that's just our way of, if the pan's hot, we're gonna cook. If they don't feel so good, we're gonna pull back, right? We do that in the weight room, whether it's squats, really any of our lifts, and we do it with any type of sprinting. We want to take advantage of our really good days. We want to pull back on days that don't feel so well. So we always program an extra one, and we don't always hit it. And one guy might hit it, and the 18 other guys in the group don't, and that's okay. But that one guy will take advantage of the days he feels good. And then timing is important. This is what I said earlier, really knowing when to push, when to place your high days, when to place your low days, right? We ran into some issues and we didn't plan our days out just right with the football aspect of it. So make sure you got a sprint day and you would like to follow it up with a low day. You don't want to go 2 sprint days and things like that. Like very fundamental. Don't go high, low, then bad shit's gonna happen, right? So we'll talk about some of the stuff we looked at when we're running, how we do it, what we program, things like that. So for this individual, my biggest issue with him was he is super tilted at the hip, so a lot of anterior tilt. So he gets a little squatty when he runs. So I was very hesitant. We actually didn't get into any overspeed until about week 4 of his training. I wanted to hammer everything else first. But, so just from here, pretty cool software we have. We have a really good sports scientist at A&M. He breaks all this stuff down. I don't know how he does it, but really, really cool. But we're always checking our asymmetries, we're always checking our angles, right? So symmetries are always task dependent, whether it's sprinting, jumping, back squat, lunging. It depends on the task at hand. That's going to give you your asymmetry. With max velocity sprinting and overspeed, and because we were training for a 40 and not football, I wanted to maximize every angle I could. So anytime somebody's tilted a little bit to the hip, knee drive's gonna lack, right? So they get in the top end, be here, you're probably gonna see this more than you see that. And we got video, and you can see his little, and he had a hip pointer going into the bowl game. So his right hip lagged behind a little bit. But this would be a typical session. So we'd run some wickets, we'd warm up just like we warm up, hit some wickets, and then we get right into it. So after the wickets, you know, week 1, we program it out. We're gonna do a 10 plus 5 assisted sprint at 101%. Not a lot, right? The cool thing about the new ones versus the old ones, in my opinion, if the athlete doesn't have it, you can pull him at 23 miles an hour, but if he doesn't have it, he's not gonna get there. And it's not gonna yank him. The old ones were a little yanky. The big boxes, they yank your ass a little bit, so you had to be careful. My biggest worry was I didn't want to pull an athlete or assist an athlete at a speed he couldn't handle, but if he can't get there, it ain't like it's gonna drag him. And that was my biggest worry. So at first we do a run at 101%. Feel good? Yeah, feel great, good. Take our rest time, and we went to 103. So just try to make like a 2% jump. I programmed it out just like I would in the weight room. Again, just seeing if it worked. And we started off doing 2 of those. This is about week 5 of training, week 1 of overspeed. So we did a 10 plus 5 at 101, 10 plus 5 at 103, and then we got that if needed rep. So, yeah. So when I say 10 plus 5, they would be backed up 40 yards away from the machine. Their build-up would be 10, so you really wouldn't get the top end. You'd hope to be at about 73, 75% because of the assistance. Build up for 10, hold it for 5, get to the top end, and then long decel. Do not care about decel. Training for a 40, not training for anything else. Don't care about slowing down, right? And we would build that up. And then we had to make sure, I'll talk about that in a sec. So that would be week 1, and week 2 we literally would do 15-yard build-up, 10-yard hold, 102, 104%. That was my simplest way to program it. Again, seeing if it worked. You know, obviously we track times. The good thing is if I'm pulling a guy at 103% and he hits 99%, he ain't got it that day, he's done. I ain't got to ask no questions. It's right there in front of me, right? So kind of a good governor to use is if I'm pulling him higher than his max velocity and he doesn't hit higher than his max velocity, something's going on with CNS, whatever it may be, something's not right. And then as we continue, we did 4 weeks of it. The biggest we got was we built up for 20, held for 10 at 105%. Was the fastest I went. And for this guy, it ended up being like 22.8, 22.7, somewhere in there. And the cool thing in that, and the reason I got those distances was because I looked at their 40. All right, where do they hit top end? How long do they hold top end? Okay, can I increase the time they hold top end from 6 yards to 8 yards, 6 yards to 10 yards, right? Running 40 is about how late can you start slowing down? So that was the big thing, was how long is he holding max velocity? All right, well, let's program it. We're gonna train him to hold it for longer. I knew if he could hold it for longer, he'd run a really good 40, especially this guy. Really, really good accelerator. Was not worried about the start of the 40. When we first tested him, he could hold his top end above 95% for about 7 yards. By the end of it, the day before not the day before pro day, but our last testing day, he held 95% for 12 yards. So And I think that's really just getting familiar with how to run and hold speed and be relaxed and things like that. And that's another thing this does. The tighter these guys get, the more restricted they're going to be with whether it's their, knee lift, striking, arms. So even showing them that, it was like, hey man, you got to fucking relax, breathe, run, and you just see like your angles increase. So really, really cool for here. And then you can't tell, but this is our overspeed, so he's getting pulled right here, right? And again, we're just checking all of our angles, making sure that nothing's tight and things like that. So results matter. Again, not a book, didn't write this program based off anything besides what I thought would work. And then we're just double checking it. Like, did they run a better 40? I'm not really worried about did they increase their top mile per hour. Not on a pro day guy, right? I'm worried about the 40. I could care less about did he go from 22.5 to 22.8. That's great, but if you don't hit it until 35 yards, it doesn't help him run a 40. So we wanted to make sure what we were doing was helping him improve his 40 time. Did we increase his ability to hold high velocity? That is what overspeed, assisted sprinting, in my opinion, that was the biggest bang for our buck in terms of 40, right? Would be these guys all increase their time to hold top end speed by about 6 yards per athlete. And then do we decrease this time to max velocity or tau, right? If you can get to max velocity way quicker, one, you're gonna be a better football player, but two, you're probably gonna run a better 40, especially if you're working on both ends where I'm decreasing this time to max velocity, I'm increasing the distance so you can hold max velocity, gonna end up making a faster 40 time, faster athlete, things like that. And then this is more what we would do in the winter, but this is really basic in terms of how we break it down, how we're gonna kind of break it down this summer. We just look at what yardage we need. We have 85% yardage, we have a 95% yardage, and we just work backwards. Try to do everything in 4-week blocks. Doesn't always work out like that. We got a 5-week block coming back, so we can be a little more conservative. But this is how I wrote out all of our speed stuff going into the winter, going into the summer. The same way we're gonna do, we're not just going out there and say, I think we're gonna run 220s. Like, we have a distance, we have a number, we have velocities that we wanna hit and things like that. And the overspeed stuff will go into this. There'll be kind of its own separate thing. There will not be a lot of that. The most we'll probably do it with the team, and not everybody on the team is gonna do it. We only have a handful of guys that we do overspeed with or assisted sprinting. I would probably keep that yardage. I probably wouldn't do more than 30 yards. That would be my most a day. At the very, for me, just not knowing, would probably be 30. That's the most we got to with these guys, and then we got like 36, and they were pretty tanked for a couple of days. So super stressful, super taxing, but this is kind of how we would build it out.